All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to another episode of We Create Music. I'm your host, B. Vaughn, and today we have an extraordinary guest, KT Got Beats, music producer, songwriter, and composer.
Yes, sir.
Brother, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Appreciate it.
For sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So as with all of our shows, we kind of start in the very beginning. Just walk us through your musical journey.
Well, I know we got a timer, so being cognizant of that.
Don't worry. Yeah, we'll go as long as we need to, brother.
So I started actually learning classical music, classical piano. My pops was he's still a keyboardist at our church back in Birmingham, Alabama. So I started with classical piano at like age 6.
Wow.
And then by the time I got to middle school, like 11 or 12, I quit. I shouldn't have quit, but I thought I wanted to be a basketball player. So I quit. All my friends were joining the basketball team or whatever. So, but that's also the time where I kind of was like, I'm tired of doing these recitals. My pops had keyboards at the house. So I'm like, I want to make some of my own stuff. I was also starting to get into, more rap and hip hop because my pops being a church musician, we had a heavy gospel background, jazz, and he was into a lot of other stuff. But so I was into that. And then when I turned probably, 10, 11, 12, I was able to go to the store, buy my own CDs. I'm buying rap CDs and stuff like that. So I was like, I want to make my own beats. And so around that time that I quit piano lessons, I started making my own beats as well. So then through middle school, high school, I was basically making beats on this keyboard, this old Ensoniq TS10, which, had floppy disk and all that. So if I wanted people to hear my beats and they couldn't come to my house, my pops had this CD recorder. And so I would have to hook that up to the keyboard, put a blank CD in there, hit record, hit play on the keyboard, let it record in real time, go through that whole process. So I would make a beat CD, bring it to school, let people hear it. I don't know what that feedback was really. I don't know if people were just excited that somebody was making beats because, this is when it wasn't as accessible. So I would bring them to school. People was like, yo, this is crazy, rapping on them and stuff. So that's all through middle and high school. And then by the time I got to college, I got my first laptop, like in my freshman year. This is like 2009. And so I really consider that year, that's when I started like trying to record people in the dorm room and stuff. That's when I really say I started producing people. Okay. Before that, I was just making beats, having fun. And then probably 2009 is when I started, people was recording in my bedroom and I'm telling them like, nah, say it like this, and starting to get into that process. So there's plenty in between that year and where we are now, but I would say that's really where it started. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So coming from Birmingham, growing up in the music scene there, especially in a house where your parents, at least and your pops, is playing keyboards and he's doing those things in church, and so that has a huge impact on you as far as your creativity. So kind of talk about that. What were some of the things that when you was growing up, how that music influenced the music that you make today?
So that's going to end up like coming around to my whole like mantra now, which is there is no box. But ultimately having like those different influences. So playing classical music, but growing up in church around gospel and around, my pop just loved jazz and he loved bands like Earth, Wind and Fire and stuff like that. Those were my early influences. And then me discovering hip hop kind of on my own. My pops weren't really into hip hop and rap. But also, everybody did music. My mom played the flute. My sister played the clarinet. My brother played saxophone. So I couldn't run from music, but I kind of got tired of just making other people's music. And so I was just trying to figure out how to get these influences into my own sound. So like a lot of my earlier beats had like lots of classical runs in them because that's all I knew how to play at the time, and just putting drums behind that. And then over time, I got influenced by the time I got into music, this is like 2000, 99, 2000. So who was killing the game at this time is Dr. Dre, Kanye, Pharrell and Neptunes, and Timbaland. So those are like my biggest influences because they was making everybody's music
stuff
at the time. And it was universal. I felt like I could turn it on, you know, the contemporary station and I would hear a Timbaland song, and I could turn it on the rap station and still hear a Timbaland song or a Neptune song or whatever. So that was like, so my sound now, like, is, you know, it's like a plethora, it's like a combination of all those different influences.
Okay.
So you may hear, one day you may hear more of a live bass sound, and the other day you may hear more just 808s. And then the next day it may be something that sounds like more of a movie score, and it's got more of a classical feel to it. So we talked about my project Possibility.
Yep.
That's kind of the whole theme. I mean, we could talk more about that, but
yeah, of course. Oh, we're gonna get into talking about possibilities. Yeah, because I heard it the other night, and definitely got to shout it out so people can go copy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, when you think about music back in those, you know, 90s, early 2000s, when Timbaland and Pharrell and Dr. Dre and Kanye, they were killing it.
Right,
but what I loved about, I mean, I'm from Virginia, so
okay.
I mean, Timbaland and the Neptunes were, you know, they were the main influences of music in VA. But their sound was so diverse.
Right.
It was so diverse, and it wasn't complex, but it had enough elements in there that made it full.
Yeah.
And made it, you know, those type of compositions that really, really energized the music scene, whether it was in pop or whether it was in rap, whether it was in R&B, whether it was in whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So when you kind of consider how music was back then to how music is today, what are some of the differences you see from both of those time periods?
Man, I mean, I feel like it's so many reasons why music is a little different, but the main reason I looked up to those people was because I feel like they found their kind of sound and then they did that. And so the reason I feel like they could transcend genre with their sound is because, like, let's take Neptunes, for example, like whether it was a Britney Spears or a Gwen Stefani or a Mystical or a Jay-Z, everybody was like, I want that Neptune sound. Versus, I feel like now, I mean, I feel like people are still trying to do that, and a lot of people still can, but I feel like now people look at it with more so like, what's working, I can give you what's working. And so if this Cardi B sound right now is working, I can give you something that sounds like that. Which, I mean, if you can get paid from it, I ain't mad at you. But I feel like it's, as far as longevity and being able to differentiate yourself in the long run, like your legacy as a creator, you got to do your thing ultimately. And it's challenging. I mean, you're talking to somebody who, like I said, I started when I was making beats at 12, and I'm still trying to really, like, you know, introduce myself to the world the right way. But ultimately, like, the things that help me stay kind of grounded on this is when I run into people that have heard my stuff 5 years ago, and they're like, man, every time I hear something of yours, I feel like I know that's you. And you know, that makes a difference to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the main difference, is like when I talk to I'll mentor a couple of producers, and they like, yo, I heard this new beat, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to make some stuff like that. And I'm like, cool, if you're just trying to learn how to create, that's what I did too. But put your own thing in there, man. You know, I was like, I know you like, you know, you like a little bit of rock music too. Like, throw those elements in there. And they're like, well, that ain't what they really doing right now. And I'm like, but that's what you do, you know? So that's why I encourage people to do. And that's where my whole there is no box kind of thing. That's what that's all about. It's just, you know, maybe this is where you are right now, but if you want to do something different, you can.
Yeah, you can. There's no limits.
There's no limits.
There's no box, right? I mean, you can operate outside of what people think you should be doing. You can create music. You know, I've had conversations with people where we talk about being a music producer, and if you're a music producer, you should be able to produce music. It's not just, I just produce, you know, trap beats, or I just produce country, right? Now, you got people today, like I know, for example, prime example, there was a homie of mine that let me listen to a song that wasn't released. He showed me the song and the video for it. I listened to the whole thing. He said, I'm not going to tell you who produced it. I listened to the whole song, and it was a country song.
Okay.
And it was dope.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, these guys are dope. The group is called, I'll tell you the group, the Van Leers, right?
Okay.
Yeah, they call the Vanliers out of Nashville.
Word.
And I saw the song, I listened to the song, saw the video. After it was done, he was like, "Who you think produced it?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe it's a country producer."
One of those,
He was like, "Nah, Focus produced it." I was like, "Wait a minute, wait, Focus 3 Dots?"
Yeah.
He said, "Yes, he produced this track." But it just goes to show that if you are a producer, you should produce music, and that's what I loved about Timbaland and the Neptunes. And Missy and all them, because Missy did a lot of production as she was coming up, right? So I love that because they produce, and it's not just I just do that type of thing, right? They operate outside of the box.
Yeah, and I feel like ultimately, like all of us, like everybody's unique, right? Everybody brings something different, and so I started to get in this habit, like where you kind of like cut off a part of yourself. You cut off some of the things that you like, the things that you would do because you feel like, well, that's not really what, that's not really what people messing with right now, or that's not the sound at the moment, or I may not be able to get paid off that, which again, I don't knock nobody for that because everybody got a different situation, but ultimately, how you gonna like express your individuality if you are like, nah, I'm not gonna do that because it's not really cool, because I feel like that's what people like them did. They made it cool. Like Timbaland beatboxing on stuff, like that wasn't a normal thing necessarily.
Timbaland beatboxing on stuff. He's putting gorillas,
babies and all kind of stuff.
King Kong, not King Kong, Godzilla and stuff. And sure, he may put King Kong and stuff, but he's putting all these weird, crazy elements into the song, and people love it.
Right.
He was creating an entire movement with his music, just from a creative perspective. And think about how many producers now kind of want to sound like Timbaland.
Yeah,
just because he was.
That's how I was. I was like, oh, like I used to, my old little theme, like way back, used to be like changing the way you bob your head. Because I heard Timbaland say that one time where he was like, I'm trying to change the way you bob your head. And I'm like, yeah, like I want people to affect the game, not just only be affected by it. So like come in and influence it. And even if it's just a little bit, maybe like the one thing you do is, you take silverware and you got this special tap you do with forks.
You play spoons. Like.
Yeah. People be like, yo, every time I hear your stuff, I hear like this little spoon thing. The next thing you know, another kid coming up is like, I want to throw silverware in mine. Like just those little things is kind of, I feel like that's what helps push the envelope and kind of like get us further along. So that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to encourage other people to do.
Right. Do you feel that in the urban music culture that we live by the mindset of immediacy versus legacy?
I think we do now, but I don't blame nobody for that. I really feel like it's just because of the internet and because everything is immediate. That's what we're looking at. We like, well, if I can make a song, as you know, we can make a song right now and put it out, and so people are thinking like, well, let me just do that. Let me just try to make a song as quick as I can and get it out. And so that means you probably not taking the time to add your 2 cents in and take it from there. And you're thinking about, because you can get it out so immediately, you're thinking about the immediate reaction that's going to happen, which just wasn't maybe the case 10, 15 years ago. Like when you put music out, it took a while for you to kind of get the feedback. Right. But now, because as soon as you hit post, somebody could just comment and be like, trash.
Trash, like all day.
Yeah.
Thumbs down, fire symbols.
Right. So since that could happen, you more hesitant to push the envelope. Because that first person that listens might just be like, he put forks in there? Trash. You know what I'm saying?
Who would hit forks in songs?
Right. And now it's just, that fear, which is ultimately what it comes down to is we just afraid that people not going to accept this. They're going, I'm going to be somewhat of an outcast if I do this. And that's the part we got to get over. Yeah. Really. That's what it comes down to.
It's so crazy that the music industry today really are looking for people who can forge a new path. You hear people always saying, I'm looking for that new sound, but they always are getting the same sound that other people are generating. That you and I, we can sit here and just make trap beats and send it to people, and they're like, "This is cool,"
right?
but they're looking for that new wave, that new sound. You can hear interviews with major artists today, and they're kind of talking about that, right? And so they're kind of giving us as producers a clue that they want that new stuff. Like, okay, yeah, trap is cool, booty shaking music is cool, but what's the new stuff?
Yeah.
Like, I love Boz's album.
Yeah.
Like, because it just sounds so, like, Tribe was so different.
Tribe was dope.
And Tribe still had that 808 feeling to it.
Right.
But it had a whole different, it just had a whole different feel.
Yeah. And that's what, I mean, I've heard people describe, like, creativity is basically familiarity plus novelty. Like, because you give people, like, something that feels kind of familiar, and then you add this, like, new element or a new idea to it. And that's where it kind of starts inching along. And I think, like you said, if you're a major, somebody like a T.I. who's, been out forever, like, he not trying to make the same thing he already made. He knows that to stay relevant, he got to keep adding on, like, little things. So, and that's, just one person. But I think that's where the perfect balance kind of comes in, which is hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy to do. But like you said with Boz, it's still got the 808s. It's got some movement, but then you add in maybe, something more tribal to it or whatever. And then that just kind of like makes you, because you feel like, oh, I know what this is. And then you're like, oh, that's cool. I just got introduced to something new. And so that's kind of like the balance to find, which is, it's not easy, but that's what I think we should all be striving for.
Yeah. So let's talk about possibilities.
Okay.
Talk about the process you went through in creating it. What drove you to create your own album, and just talk about your music in general. Where can people kind of find your music as well?
Yeah. So basically, back in, I guess that was 2018. So 2018, I'm just going to tell you what triggered it out. So I went at my 9 to 5. We had like this retreat. It was in New York, up in the countryside, playing basketball out there, messed around and ruptured my Achilles in this basketball tournament. So long story short, obviously that had me sit down for a while. And so I'm sitting down. But before that happened, at that same retreat, the day before that happened, they were like, yo, we're going to have this talent show, blah, blah. Like, if you want to do something, let us know. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like play a beat or something like that. I didn't realize it was going to be like 1,000 people at this event. But so I go up there. I play this one unfinished beat I had. I was like, let me just see, some of these is my coworkers. I'll be all right. The room, I got the footage now. It's on my YouTube page, but the whole place just started moving. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, okay. So I ain't even got no words to this. Like, people just moving to this music. So, so the next day I ended up having an injury, but being at home for a little bit, I started thinking about, I was like, man, first of all, I was just grateful that it wasn't a worse injury. It wasn't like a brain injury or something. And the reason I kind of came to that, so I was like, sometimes people had these injuries. Like, if I was an NBA player, this would be devastating. But I would kind of have to change my identity in a sense. Maybe I had grew up and I was like, I'm gonna be a player. I'm gonna be a basketball player. That's what I'm gonna do. And then now everything would have been different. And I was grateful for the fact that I'm like, I can still make music. That doesn't change. But I was thinking about how it made me kind of do a lot of research and reading about identity and about how we basically hold on to our identity so tightly. And so if anything threatens that, then we take offense to it and we get real defensive. And I was trying to understand why we did that, and ultimately it's just fear. We fear that if this isn't our identity anymore, we ain't gonna know who we are. But really, that's the only way we gotta grow like that. And so, long story short, possibilities. I put out that one track that I performed, and I was like, cool, got a good response. And I was like, everybody expects me to be behind the scenes, and they expect maybe a certain sound from me as a producer, but I want to like get rid of that perception and just put out the music I want to put out. And so a lot of those beats were just, like I was telling you earlier, just beats that were, some of them 4 or 5 years old. I was just like, they sitting on my hard drive. Maybe I sent them to artists and they didn't really mess with it. So I'm like, I'm just going to put it out. And just kind of, the reason I call it possibilities is because it's a lot of different styles on there. And I'm like, these are the different possibilities that can come out. And so the whole thing behind it was There's No Box, because I'm like, this isn't an all trap project. This isn't an all neo soul project.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a project of music that I like, you know, and so that's kind of where that came from. So
yeah, and you got to put out music that you like also, right?
Yeah.
If you don't like anything you put out, why are you even putting it out?
And then sometimes, you know, working with artists, the artist, you may not like the song as much,
Mm-hmm.
or you might have had a different vision for it. And so, like we said earlier, like now producers have more creative control. We have we're basically more empowered to do whatever we want to do. And so I'm just trying to take advantage of that. Yeah.
That's right. Like, how do you deal with that? Because you just mentioned, you know, you may have created the song and then you have an artist on the song and then you may not like the trajectory of that the song is going. And like, well, how do you deal with that? There have been times I've made songs and somebody got on the song and it was like, I don't like the way that's kind of like heading. Like, I didn't envision, you know, that being the course of your lyrics and your flow and whatever. Like, how do you deal with that when when you're working on a project that's not going the way that you...
Well, the first thing is now I'm like way more hands-on and involved in the process, if I can be. I mean, because that's how it started, right? Like when we create music, like I was creating with my friends, they in my dorm room. I'm part of the process.
You see how he put that plug in there, right? He said, when we create music, right? You're singing.
You know, I'm playing that. So, you know, you're a part of the process. You can tell them. And then once it starts becoming, I think what happens is it starts becoming more about money. And then, so now it's just like, okay, how much you going to pay me? All right, I'll send you the beat. And then they do whatever they do. And I'm not maybe as involved. So I don't have no creative control. And so I'm trying to get back more involved. But also, I think that's why, I mean, producers are putting out their own projects, even with artists on it. Because it's like, this is my project, and this is based on these tracks that I produced. This is how I wanted the songs to come out. And so I'm just trying to get more hands-on and stop waiting, I guess, for, like I said earlier, like really, I think what producers do on the low, you feel how you want to feel, but I think a lot of times we wait on artists to validate our beats.
You know, I would agree with that.
We make the beat and then we send it to them and we're like, I hope they like it. And if they say, I don't really like it, you know, we take that real personally, but really they might not like it, but I played beats for somebody and they was like, and then the next person was like, oh my God.
That is subjectivity of music, though.
You know,
you may think something super dope and they may go trash.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you may think something is like your trashiest beat and they may go, dude, this is fire.
Right.
Like, let me get this and this because it is so subjective.
Yeah.
You know, and so a friend of mine, and I know he's probably going to see it, but I've said it before. He said opinions are like noses. Everybody got one.
Everybody got one.
Right. Yeah. And so it depends on what you're going to do with that opinion, how that opinion is going to impact you as a music creator. Are you going to say, okay, well, they thought it was trash. Is it really trash?
Yeah.
It may not be. That's just their opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I learned that too because before I moved out to Atlanta, I used to come out here and do a ton of beat battles. And I remember I won certain beat battles with the same beats that I lost in the first round on another one. And so that's when I really realized, I was like, oh, you never know.
You never know.
It just depends on the day and the person or whatever. So
that's right.
Now it took me a long time, but now that's why I'm about to start just putting out beats like every couple weeks, every month, just releasing stuff. Everyone ain't gonna be my best beat, but somebody probably gonna like one of them out the bunch. So the goal is now just to execute, just to be consistent, kind of build momentum for me and the brand.
That's right.
At this point,
I was saying it the other day, is that not every beat a producer makes is going to be their best, most fire track. I mean, it's just not. You're going to make some mediocre beats. Yeah. You know, but you like it. Like there are beats that I made that are mediocre, but I like it. And it's like, I find myself going back listening to them like, I like this, but would it ever get on a major artist album? Probably not. But do I like it? Yes. Right. You know, you got to make music for yourself and also music for other people. Yeah. Right. I mean, both. You just got to. You just got to. You know, so I want to go back to possibilities, though. I do want you to tell them where they can find this amazing album.
It's on all the streaming platforms. Here we go. It's on Possibilities. It's on all streaming platforms. Just search KT Got Beats Possibilities. Or you can go to my website. I got a link to it there, ktgotbeats.com. So it's gonna be a lot more coming. Actually, this Friday, January 17th. So be on the lookout for that. You know, follow me everywhere. KT Got Beats. That's the same thing everywhere.
Yeah, what I like that he has on his website, and because I perused the entire website, all right, what I love that you have on your website is that there's a link at the top that says "Let's work," and then it takes you to a video, and it says, "This is how we can work together."
Yeah,
I love that. I don't know if I've seen anybody do that on any website, on any platform, but he has a video. Yeah, well, like I'm talking to you, you have a video up there that says "Let's work," and then it really walks you through a process of here's how we work, and then there's a form. Oh man, I love it. It says project. I think it says project planner.
Yeah,
you click that, and there's 10 questions that you go through, and I was like, I don't think I've seen anybody
my mentor
do that.
I recently had gotten a business mentor, and he kind of like, he was like, look, man, like you gotta, first of all, you gotta tell people what you do. Just because you're a producer don't mean they knows what makes you different from somebody else. And then the project planner is really like, I'm really just trying to see if you're serious, because I'm asking you certain questions to see like where do you want to go. And I use the word "let's work" on purpose because
that's the common phrase.
It's the common phrase. But you know, usually when you meet somebody and y'all dap up, and then they be like, "Yeah, man, let's work."
Let's work,
and that's where it ends. So I'm like, people used to saying "let's work," but I'm like, no, like, are you ready to work? That's basically what the form and all of that is like. Are you ready to work? Because I'm at a place now where, I mean, I know tons of artists. There's no shortage of people for me to work with. So if I'm gonna particularly work with this person, are you ready to work? Do you know what you want to do? Because between me putting out my music and me working with the homies I already got, I'm plenty of busy. And so if we're gonna make this work, then let's take it serious.
Really trust. If you're filling out that form, you must be really serious, because he's gonna ask you some questions that, I mean, really, a producer who's working on a project or working with an artist should be asking.
Right.
I mean, those are basic questions you should, like, I think question 10 was, what's your budget?
Yeah.
Like you got to have a budget.
Price, I mean, obviously, we're going to talk through it, but if you kind of coming into the picture, like, I want you to do all these things for me, and I don't really have no plan on, like, how to compensate you, then no disrespect, but I already got plenty of people I can work with for free that I already know. And so I don't need new people necessarily to work with for free. I'm going to always look at the situation, but, that's, I mean, I feel like that's how most producers feel. It's like, I got homies I can work with for free.
Right, for free.
And so I'm really looking to build a relationship with you, but if you coming to me for something that you feel like I have expertise in, just like you would go to the grocery store, or just like you go to your doctor, like, you're going to pay them something.
That's right.
For that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love the fact that on the site, you have a 3-step plan that kind of walks them through. Here's what phase 1 looks like. Here's what phase 2 looks like. By the time you're done with your album, you'll have a radio-ready album that you can market. But then I like step 3 that says, okay, now you get your project. Now, if you need help with consultation and planning and distribution and things like that, you are also available to help them through that as well.
I'm trying to be, an asset to an artist. So, I mean, that first step, and that comes specifically from that whole identity thing, is I call it the artist identity assessment. So I ask you a ton of questions. I send a ton of questions out. I tell artists, go to the park, turn off your phone, turn off your computer, sit down and give yourself real answers to these questions. This is going to help you understand who you are as an artist right now and where you want to go to get out that box.
Right.
And then, of course, we're going to make amazing music, make sure it's high quality. But then I want to make sure you know how you're going to get paid from it, all that stuff. I mean, because if not, like, somebody going to take advantage of you. So
yeah. Oh, look. Yeah. They sure will take advantage of you. Yep. All right, cool, man. So let's talk about some of your own personal sacrifices and challenges that you've had to deal with in this industry. And what did you learn from those?
It's always funny to me because I feel like I'm always learning through mistakes. But sacrifices, I think, it's like, where do I start? But so when I moved out to Atlanta in 2013. Okay. And a lot of the stuff, so like I said, I was doing beat battles and stuff, and I had a couple opportunities come up, and especially when you don't really know I'm from Birmingham, smaller city, and you don't really know like what an opportunity looks like sometimes. So I had a couple opportunities come up for like production deals and things like that. And trying to be careful, like I get lawyers involved and stuff, and the lawyers are like, oh no, this contract is all bad, and you need to renegotiate and blah blah. And I'm like, all right, I'm trying to trust the lawyer. But when in hindsight, I'm like, man, some of these opportunities, were they the best option for me? I mean, like, I didn't have no leverage. So, like, yeah, I was going to have to give some stuff up. Right. But maybe the opportunities that would have come from it would have been worth it. But I turned down situations because I'm like, well, it don't seem like it's the best option. But you never know, like, what could have happened when you turn down the opportunity. And so, I try to learn from those situations. Like, you really just got to look at the bigger picture a lot of times. Sometimes I know I was watching Rob's interview, like talking about saying no to certain things. You got to know when to say no and when to say, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. So that's something I'm trying to learn, like even today, like if I was helping this 14-year-old kid with a song, and normally I'm charging people for stuff, but he 14 and he doing everything he can at his home. And he like, man, I just need a little help on the mixing. And I'm like, you know what? I got you. And because I just look, I'm like, this is a good opportunity. This kid got a lot of talent. I just want to be a part of what he got going on. So it's like trying to figure out when to say yes, when to say no. But sacrificing, I mean, I've worked all the way through like my career so far, like to make sure my family and my situation is always taken care of, which means I don't necessarily get to be in the studio 24/7 working all the time. But I mean, again, that's one of those things you got to decide for yourself in your own situation. Like, do I want to just quit and go for it? That's not always as clear cut as it sounds.
About that.
Yeah, you'll hear people on one side like, man, if you really believe in it, you should just drop everything and go for it. But everybody's situation a little different, man. Like if you got a kid or whatever the case may be, like
or bills
or just bills or just bills,
right? Oh man,
then you can't. It's not as straightforward, and so you're gonna sacrifice one way or the other. You're either gonna sacrifice by not having really no money and just trying to figure it out, or you're gonna sacrifice your time by having to, invest it somewhere else. And so that's just, that's just a constant. I mean, that's life in general. But like, as far as in the industry, I feel like, you always putting yourself out there. You always taking risks, whether it's working with particular people or particular companies, or just risking it all by jumping ship from your job and going for it. So,
yeah, there's always a risk involved in pretty much everything that we do. I mean, because we don't know really what the choice is going to lead. So there's going to be a risk that we're always going to take. Whether you're the producer who I'm quitting today and I'm going to go full-fledged into it, or if I got other responsibilities that I got to make sure I take care of and manage. And then there's risk with that. Like you can't be in the studio 24/7. I can't be in the studio 24/7. Right. My wife is. I can't be in the studio 24/7.
He's just like, I just can't do it.
Can't do it. I mean, plus I got to go to work the next day. I mean, I know people who do it and they sacrifice, but my day job still pays the bills. So if I'm super tired when I go to work and I'm not performing at the level that my leadership is requiring, they can be like, hey, guess what?
You should just figure out how to do that.
Guess what? You've just been promoted to customer. And you have I'm like, so there's sacrifice and risk with everything that we do. Yeah. So some people have a affinity to take a greater risk than others, or situations can take a greater risk than others.
Yeah, and I mean that's why now I really like being around the youth, because I feel like this is the best time. If you, as far as sacrifice and risk, that's the best time. Like I said, the 14-year-old kid, he's trying to figure it out. I'm like, now's the time to like invest in him, because he'll be able to take that risk at 18 and just figure it out, because he ain't got a whole bunch of other responsibilities versus, if you don't take the risk earlier, it's, it just gets it gets more and more difficult as time goes on. So I try to encourage people to take a risk based on your situation, what's the most risk you can take without completely like destroying your situation. So for me, I'm still in a good place because I don't have kids. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not completely responsible for another human being. But at the same time, the way I'm approaching things now, I mean, I still got like hella student loans and stuff like that. And so I'm like, I could quit now. Like if I didn't have no, maybe debt and things like that, I could quit now and figure it out. Yeah. But with all this other stuff going on and wanting to be able to help my family out and things like that, it's not quite there yet.
Right. Yeah, you got to still figure out how to maneuver through that to ensure that you're still getting what you need for yourself, for your situation, family, whatever it may be. Yeah. But yeah, I cannot take that. That's not a leap that I can take. I have a brother who's also he's an artist. I've been telling this dude, like, bruh, that's what you should be doing. Like, I know he works a day job. He doesn't have kids. He's not married. Man, shoot. I'm not saying let that be me. Right. When you watch, don't tell your mom to. But anyway, if it was just me, I would be ham on as much as possible. Right. Yeah, and I would give that advice to any person that's out there that doesn't have like outside responsibilities when it comes to kids or family. Go for it. Just man. Push it as hard as you can. Yeah. Nothing wrong with having a day job, right? Right. Of course. Do what you got to do. Do your day job. Come home. Work your tail off through the night. But figure that thing out.
But I think that contributes to why people try to stay in the box too. Because especially if you know, like, man, I need to, like, I'm doing this full time. I'm like taking the leap, but I got to pay my bills next month. That's when it starts to be scarier to like take those risks musically because you're like, well, if I do my own little silverware thing on this, like people may not mess with that and I may not sell no beats and I may not be able to pay my bills. So I'm just going to make what I know is probably going to work like 99% of the time. And so you got to decide too, like, okay, if you do have these like big ambitious goals and you feel like you're super creative and you want to take risks creatively, how is that going to translate into the business side as well? Like, obviously, it may take a little bit longer to build that fan base, or you may have to take time to find those people, which again is part of the reason why I'm just trying to put out my own music now, because I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't want to have to rely on an artist fan base to be my fans. Yeah. If I can have my own fan base and people that just like what I do naturally, then I want to continue to build that. Yeah. And over the years, I've gotten a lot of confirmation from people that are like, yo, man, I mean, artists will listen to the music and be like, I just want to listen to this. There's no need for me to put a song on top of this. And so I'm like, okay. And that has opened up other opportunities to do short film scoring and different stuff like that too. So like the project I'm probably most proud of to date, one of them is with this motivational speaker named Inky Johnson, who travels the world and speaks everywhere, and he wanted to do a project where he took some of his speeches and then I just scored music behind it. Yeah. And I like that because it let me have creative freedom, but also it has a positive impact on people because it's motivational. So, I've run into people who listened to the project, didn't know I did it, and was like, oh, what that was you? Now I listen to it every day before I go out and work out because I'm trying to, and so I'm like, cool, like me staying true to like what I like to do ultimately came back and made a positive impact.
See, that's a different approach. That's a different way to get your music in places that you may normally not consider. Right? Most people are artist focused. Artists. I need an artist. Let me get an artist. And they're so blinded like in the box, right? That they don't see that there's other opportunities for their music. Like, who would think about scoring music for a nationally known speaker? He's putting out his motivational speeches on CD or on iTunes. Yeah. And there's your music behind it. Yeah. Most people wouldn't even consider that.
Man, ain't no box, man.
No box.
Ain't no box.
No box. I love it. I love it. So speaking of not having a box, what would be some advices like that's an actual I'm not even going to cut that out. I'm going to leave it in there. Advices. But we got some advices for you. What advice would you have for people who are wanting to get into this music industry, what would you tell them?
Just from my own personal experience, always be a student. Like, always be open to adapt. As soon as you get that fixed mindset instead of versus a growth mindset, it's gonna start going downhill. That happened to me. I mean, I think it happened to me with like stuff like social media. You know? Like when I first got on like Instagram, which is like 2012 or something. And I would see other producers like making beats and putting videos up, and I was like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. You supposed, as a producer, you know, you're supposed to be behind the scenes, like you do your thing or whatever. And so I just like a lot of stuff that I was seeing was working, that was new. I was kind of fighting it. I was like, nah, that's not how you do things. Whatever. And so I feel like it puts you behind a little bit. And then you realize later on, like, oh, maybe I should get involved. But now you just 1 in a million at this point. So like, always be learning, always be open to, I guess I should look right here. Always be open to adapt to the situation. So yeah, just always be a student. I feel like if you do that, a lot of other stuff will come naturally, because that'll always keep you humble, and that'll always make sure that you don't put yourself in a situation where you judging other people. Because as soon as you start doing that, I mean, you basically making yourself irrelevant, because now you're becoming a hater instead of a creator, you know. So that's probably the biggest lesson for me, is just keep learning. Like, if this is a thing that's working right now, see if you can incorporate that into your workflow or your you know, creativity. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's probably the biggest one. I mean, I could go through all the things I learned from mistakes and through experience, but I think ultimately that was the biggest thing, and that'll also keep you from being in a box too, because if you want to add a little country element in your thing,
why not? Old Town Road did it.
Yeah.
Look where that went.
Did you see the video he put out where his one of his videos from a year ago started circulating of him, like when he just released a song, he was just at the crib, like eating some food or some noodles or something. Like, yeah, man, just put out Old Town Road. We're gonna see how it goes. I'm getting some good feedback so far, but we'll see where I'm at in a year. So I'm like, hey man, you know, you just gotta take that chance.
And now we see where he's at a year later.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, like, and that goes back. You gotta take risks.
You gotta take the risk.
You gotta take risks, because you never know. I mean, even though Nelly kind of did the same thing previously,
of course, and he killed it.
Right, and killed it.
Yeah,
like that was a. Now the songs now the songs in my head, you know, over and over. That's what it was, over and over again.
Right.
That's right. Killed it.
Right.
But Old Town Road has a different little feel to it. It feels a little more country than what Nelly was doing back then. But
then still got the 808.
Still got the 808
but
feel to it.
It's got the 9 Inch Nails sample.
Yes.
So it's like you just talked about trap, rock, rock and country. You know what I'm saying?
All in like one, and you figure out how to make it work.
How to make it work, man.
You gotta take risk. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So where can people find you?
KT Got Beats everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, even though I don't really tweet no more. KTGotBeats.com. Really just between Instagram and KTGotBeats.com, that's where I'm gonna be. So come find me, reach out, visit the site, check out the possibilities. Be on the lookout. I'm probably gonna post something today about what I'm about to start doing this year. So just be on the lookout about, I'm gonna be releasing a lot of stuff and trying to create a platform for creators to do things that are outside of the box. So reach out to me if you want to be a part of that. Yeah,
that's dope. Yeah, that was one of my last questions. What's next? But that's the only if you want to share it. But if you want to know, I guess you can hit up KT, you know.
Yeah, I was just saying that this There Is No Box thing is finna be, you're going to see a lot more of that. And because I really just want to create a platform for highlighting people that are choosing to create and live life outside of that box.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, brother, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, man.
Yes, sir.
Really appreciate it.
Fun, man.
Any last words you want to say before we end?
There's no box.
No box.
Go out there, take risks, keep learning. Let's create.
That's what's up. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of We Create Music. You can always check us out at www.wecreatemusic.tv. And you can join us for our new time, which is Thursdays at 7 p.m. We're out, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Have a great, great day. Or when you watch this, it'll be nighttime. So peace.
Peace.